All you colonizers, every single one of you that's against Black Lives Matter can off. We're done with colonizers. Indigenous people are done with colonizers.
Members of the Senate, I'd like to read a prepared statement. I'm Amy Coney Barrett, nomination can't fail. Once I am Supreme Court, it's Handmaid's Tale. Better not get laid, cause no more Roe v. Wade. Enjoy the Constitution now before it is betrayed. See, I'm a hypocrite, so I'm a nice fit with Republicans who wouldn't give Merrick Garland not a hearing or a vote just to get Obama's goat. It's becoming so clear they don't care election year. When Obama had a nominee in March, it was too close to voting. But now it's the end of September and Mitch McConnell's gloating. Senators Grassley, Cruz, Ernst, Rubio, Cornyn, and Gardner boycotted American 16 couldn't have flip-flopped harder. Hold the tape, hear me now, use my words against me. See, there are no ethics in the GOP. This whole confirmation process is a sham. If it was more spineless, it'd be Lindsey Graham.
Okay, welcome. This is War Room Pandemic. A little bit of miss there on the open. Live from New York, Washington, D.C. It's 12 October, year of our Lord 2020. It's Indigenous People Day. I actually came up to New York, Jack Maxey, Raheem Kassam, looking for a Columbus Day parade. In fact, I'll take a Columbus Day parade that the guys heading the march are Anthony Fauci and Anthony Scaramucci. Where's the mooch and where's the Fauci when I need them? No Columbus Day parade in New York City. No, you can have all the Black Lives Matter protests you want. You can have Antifa shutting down the town. You got 50 cop cars follow them around to make sure they can go to have total destruction in Midtown Manhattan with absolutely no blowback on them. You got cops that follow them, but you cannot have a Columbus Day parade. I want to welcome you to Indigenous People here on War Room 2020. You saw the violence out in Portland, this out-of-control city out there where they're taking down now the statue of Abraham Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt and desecrating those statues. Indigenous People Day here. Throughout the next 2 hours, over almost 16 million downloads on our podcasts. We're also live in the John Fredericks Radio Network, Real America's Voice, which Dish Channel 219, and in Chicago, Channel 113 on Comcast. Obviously, we're on Newsmax TV, 70 million homes. In G News and GTV in Mandarin throughout the day. We're going to be going from New Zealand down to Florida, everywhere. We've got Michael Matt, from editor-in-chief of The Remnant. He's hardcore. He's coming on. We're also going to be talking to a member of Parliament in New Zealand about the rise of the Chinese Communist Party. Gentlemen, other breaking news today. The Vatican is liquidating their portfolio. I think they sold 25 million pounds worth of stocks and securities to start to prop up their finances, given these disastrous investments they're making, and also the fact that the Lao Beijing and the deplorables that sit in the pews every day are not writing checks like they used to, because they will not back this out-of-control regime that has taken over the Catholic Church. Also, report in the Financial Times today in the front page, Chinese companies have raised, I think, $25 billion something on American exchanges. For the deplorables, money has gone into $25 billion of capital raised under the Trump administration. Remember, Trump administration, action, action, action. Time for happy talk is over when it comes to the Chinese Communist Party. Let's stop financing them. Let's cut them off of the cash of the deplorables. Step number one, no more IPOs on Wall Street with American money. Okay, we have the rap song that we're going to be playing throughout the day. I think it's quite ingenious. Handmaid's Tale today on Indigenous People Day. Raheem Kassam, Jack Maxey, I want to hear your opening. By the way, we're going to be cutting to, as we've got great cut-ins, to Judge Barrett is actually, her confirmation hearing starts today. That's what we did, the Handmaid's Tale. Raheem, Jack, let's start with you, Raheem. Put this in perspective. How important is Judge Barrett's confirmation hearing coming in? Everything has happened. A historic moment in American history, a historic election coming on. How important is Barrett's hearing? What does it mean for the president's for the race in 2020?
Hey, Steve, it's fundamentally important, but I want to go back and touch on that cold open if we can a little bit. They're tearing down statues of Teddy Roosevelt and Lincoln. They apparently also trashed the art museum. This is all about Indigenous Peoples Day / BLM. As far as I can tell from looking at all the people who got arrested last night, none of them represented those groups. The other thing that I want to say, which is very interesting, and it goes to both The Handmaid's Tale, Silly Song, and also The Rioters. This is mental illness. It is all around us. And there is no irony that the Roosevelt and Lincoln statues were dedicated in the 1920s, a gift to the city by a fellow named Dr. Henry Waldo Coe, according to the Oregonian. And guess what he did? He ran the Morningside Psychiatric Hospital in downtown Portland. I think we should put the statues back up and also put back the Morningside Psychiatric Hospital and fill it up with some of these Biden supporters that are destroying the city. Right here.
Look, this is what this election comes down to. Hey, I'll take Handmaid's Tale over this anarchy you're seeing in the streets. People in mainstream media is covering this up. Mainstream media doesn't want to cover any of the Black Lives Matter riots right now. They don't cover any of the Antifa. If you want the continuation of this anarchy in the streets, if you want the continuation of the cultural Marxism, if you want the continuation of the Red Guard, that's what they are. This is the cultural revolution. That's what's coming. They're trying to downplay it to the run-up to the election. But if you want that, vote for that. Or if you want that, stay home. Don't get people to come out to vote. Don't go door to door. Don't work a phone bank. Don't be a poll watcher. Don't be an election official. It's all on your shoulders. If you want what's going on in Portland to go throughout the country because they're coming to a hometown near you, your hometown, just support it or look the other way. Right now, what I love about this is not letting you look the other way. They're up in your grill, right? We're in New York City, greatest city in the world. The Columbus Day parade before has been the parade marshal has been people from Joe DiMaggio to Sophia Loren, right? And every Italian American or people from Italy, that have a broad spectrum of conservatives, of liberals, of progressives. But there's no parade today, right? All they're going to do is go around in Columbus Circle and try to trash the the statue of Columbus, right? Who discovered America, right? No, but Indigenous People Day, you see how gentle they are. What do you think they're going to be like when they're in power? What do you think they're going to be like when they're doing things, right? So we're going to have a little later Keith Olbermann tell us what they're going to do.
What people have to understand, Steve, is if they're in power, the power is going to be that mob in the street. I wonder what the founders of the Lincoln Project, if they have a comment on the Lincoln statue being torn down by their supporters in Portland. Did they not get the memo? I mean, this is just getting outrageous.
So, Raheem, let's talk about Barrett in the Lincoln Project. We got some new polling, ladies and gentlemen, out of Arizona. I think it shows McSally now just down 2 from 14. We had McSally on. We had Senator McSally on. I think she was down 14 the day we had her on. I think it was in July, right? She was down 14, and she was on fire on anti-CCP and how Mark Kelly is tied up with the Chinese Communist Party and been taking their cash money. Now she's down. The latest poll, I think it's a Trafalgar poll. I think CBS News out there has been playing it up. She's down 2. Is that correct, Raheem Kassam?
Yeah, that's right. This poll was conducted between the 6th and the 9th of this month, so just a few days ago. Pretty good respondents rate and very low margin of error in this. Looking through the poll effectively, they ask if the election for Senate were held today, how would you vote? 47.3% say Mark Kelly, 45.4% say Martha McSally. Now, when you consider that the margin of error is 2.95%, in this instance, you're within it. The age, ethnicity participation, and gender participation of this all look about right to me, except there's a little bit of heavy weighting on the female side of this poll. So I wonder what implications that may have. But all in all, it's great news for Arizona. It's great news for Martha McSally, as you say, Steve, coming from 14 points down, I believe, in July. And that lead has narrowed and narrowed. It did pick back up in one poll, but that was generally believed to be an outlier as a Fox News poll that had Kelly up 17 at the end of August. Now you're looking at just 2 points.
Well, the female weighting, Raheem, really plays towards Kelly, because Kelly is essentially Martha McSally versus Gabby Giffords. Mark Kelly's married to Gabby Giffords. Gabby Giffords is essentially a saint out there after she went through that horrific incident with the guy that was trying to assassinate or killed everybody out there. Gabby Giffords has become really a mythic figure in Arizona and is really beloved. And so I'm sure the overweight to the female helps Kelly. So this has gotten to be a real dogfight. I got to tell you, I think a lot of it had to do with how McSally did during the debate. I thought she really held up well. Martha McSally's not a great retail politician, but I think she braced up Kelly in the powerful line there is that I'm not questioning your patriotism, I'm questioning your judgment about everything about supporting the Chinese Communist Party. So Raheem, let's talk about Handmaid's Tale. How powerful is Barrett's hearing over the next couple of days? By the way, tomorrow I want to announce we're going to have David Rifkin and Jim Schultz on, our two constitutional lawyers are going to be on to talk about where the Barrett hearings go. Actually, Jim's more practical, and David is probably one of the best guys in the Constitution around. They're going to frame it for us about exactly what's going on in this hearing and how important it is. But today is kind of the kickoff. How important is this for start to bring Republicans home? Because I'm starting to feel that Republicans are really, establishment Republicans are sitting there going, hey, as much as I hate Trump, as much as I can't stand the sight of him or hear his voice or read his tweets, I look at the alternative, and the alternative is Portland, Oregon, are left-wing judges. How important do you think Barrett's hearings in the next couple of days are to bring Republicans home?
I just want to make it very clear that I make a habit of never reading Maggie Atwood, so I couldn't even speak to The Handmaid's Tale. Here's the deal, though. And I said this last week. There are a lot of Republicans out there looking at the state of the race right now and thinking to themselves, if the president loses this time, then I have a quicker path to doing what I want to do in 4 years' time. That's a well-known trope here in Washington, D.C. now. It's very clear that some people are looking at their careers rather than looking at the state of the country, and I just wonder when or if they are going to have a come-around moment with Amy Coney Barrett, or if she's just going to be another one of the sacrifices as far as they're concerned, to help the Republican Party get back to its establishment, globalist, pro-CCP, whatever you want to call it, roots. And that's what this next few days is all about. That's why the base has to be telephoning and emailing and connecting with their representatives across the board to say, hey, you better get this done.
Yeah, Jack, let's talk about that. What does the base have to do here? We got about a minute left. What does the base have to do to show support for Judge Barrett? Because I agree with Raheem. And now's the time to make your voice heard. You've got to make your voice heard on the 3rd of November by getting out to vote with everybody else, but you got to make your voice heard in the next couple of days to support Judge Barrett, because she's going to go through some choppy water.
Listen, I think we got to support Judge Barrett, but I think what is most appalling is you've already got Schumer saying that they're not even going to give a quorum to get this vote out of committee, let alone to have a quorum to have it be voted on the floor. So, again, it points out the whole ridiculous nature, in my mind, of even having these hearings. McSally was confirmed in October of 2017. The only Democrat not sitting on that committee now, Franken.
All right, we'll be back after this short break.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Members of the Senate, I'd like to read a prepared statement. Amy Coney Barrett nomination can't fail. Once I am Supreme Court, it's Handmaid's Tale. Better not get laid, cause no more Roe v. Wade. Enjoy the Constitution now before it is betrayed. See, I'm a hypocrite, so I'm a nice fit with Republicans who wouldn't give Merrick Garland not a hearing or a vote just to get Obama's goat. It's becoming
Trump can be and must be expunged. The hate he has triggered, the Pandora's box he has opened, they will not be so easily destroyed. So, let us brace ourselves. Task is twofold. The terrorist Trump must be defeated, must be destroyed, must be devoured at the ballot box. And then he and his enablers and his supporters and his collaborators and the Mike Lees and the William Barrs and the Sean Hannitys and the Mike Pences and the Rudy Giulianis and the Kyle Rittenhouses and the Amy Coney Barretts must be prosecuted and convicted and removed from our society while we try to rebuild it and to rebuild the world Trump has nearly destroyed by turning it over to a virus. Remember it, even as we dream of a return to reality and safety and the country for which our forefathers died, that the fight is not just to win an election, but to win it by enough to chase, at least for a moment, Trump and the maggots off the stage, and then try to clean up what they left. Remember it, even though to remember it means remembering that the fight does not end November 3rd, but in many ways will only begin that day.
That is Keith Olbermann. He's a former ESPN, personality. He was paid by ESPN. That would be Disney. He was paid by Walt Disney Company up until like a week ago. By the way, Keith Olbermann lives in New York City, right? New York City. Keith, what forefathers you died for this country? Can you send that? Can you forward that to us? And another note to self: you're not going to win in a landslide. In fact, you're going to be defeated. So this is the type of rhetoric you're seeing. He wants. He calls it the terrorist Trump, right? You know, this is just goading on people and potential assassination attempts on the president, right? Calling the president a terrorist. I don't know why the Secret Service is not in his house right now, questioning him, calling the president of the United States a terrorist, right? Just inciting violence against the president, saying people should be locked up, right? And he was an employee of ESPN. ESPN knew all about this guy, right? And paying him up until I think 10 days ago. I'd like to know what deal ESPN, I'd like to know what deal Disney has with Keith Olbermann right now that's continuing to pay him, although he left. Are they paying out his contract right now? Keith Olbermann is dangerous. I mean, that is dangerous rhetoric, right? That is dangerous rhetoric. We're going to play that a little later. People have to understand that, have to embrace it. That's not just a guy doing it for clicks, okay? He left ESPN because he wanted to have his political philosophy out. I know he wanted to start with a bang so people go to his site, his YouTube site, since he doesn't have a show anymore. But it's dangerous rhetoric. Calling the president of the United States a terrorist, right? That's just inciting the crazies. But you haven't seen anybody on the left, I don't think. We have to find it. I haven't seen anybody on the left condemning his rhetoric. And look, this is what he's talking about. When they win, they want the show trials. They want an inquisition. They want people locked up. And look, Judge Barrett. Look at Judge Barrett. What more outstanding American can you get? And he's trying to wrap himself in the flag. I'd like to know Keith Olbermann's family. Give me and by the way, I'm fully open. If you got a bunch of veterans, if you got a bunch of guys who have sacrificed, throughout history, bring it, Keith. Other than that, I think it's just more of your happy talk, right? This guy's been fired, been let go by more organization than anybody. But you see that dangerous rhetoric, and the left is not being called out about it by the mainstream media. You see what happened in Portland last night. Abraham Lincoln, who gave everything to this country to try to bring this country together to abolish slavery, also a nationalist, built the Transcontinental Railroad, did the Homestead Act, also did, I think, the Land Grant University Act. He was always thinking of the little guy, right? And our greatest president, even greater than Washington, right? So it's just, it's incredible. The trash Indigenous People Day, all they want to do is trash the statues of Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, others, Christopher Columbus. I'm here in New York City. I was here to see the parade. The parade was going to be headed up by Anthony Fauci and Anthony Scaramucci, the two Tonys. Kidding, but I came over to see the parade, and there's no parade. No. What they're going to do is defend the Columbus statue down at Columbus Circle today from being desecrated. So that's where we are, and people have to embrace this, particularly mainstream Republicans. You should watch the Barrett hearing today. You should just look at what's going on and understand that you're going to be held responsible. If this thing's not pulled off, you're going to be held responsible. Now you're starting to see, I think, Republicans come home. one of the biggest events over the weekend. Gateway Pundits got it up, but you would see crickets on CNN or any of the mainstream media, and that's this massive outpouring of anti-communism from the Hispanic and Latino community in Florida. I think there was 30,000 participants in an anti-communist rally down there. And these are people that have lived under the boot of communism. I had the opportunity yesterday to speak to a major congregation of Albanian Americans in Michigan who are going to go out and knock on doors. I then did a live hit on Albanian TV. But the point was to talk about what's going down in Florida. And these Albanians have all lived under the boot of communism. And one of the President Trump's strongest demographics is immigrants that have lived under communism. This is why the entire Lao Beijing, the entire anti-CCP movement is really so pro-Trump. And the reason they're pro-Trump is they see Biden, the Democrats, as part of this globalist apology to the Chinese Communist Party. They want to be in business with them. They're part of the business model. Then you see this around the world where people have lived under the totalitarian, materialistic, atheistic, godless dictatorship of communists. You see those people flocking to President Trump. And what do we have out in Portland, Oregon? It's time to face it, folks. That's a cultural revolution. That's 1968 in China. That's the Red Guard. And what are they doing? Remember, the four olds. Tear down your old beliefs, your old customs, your old habits, your old ways of thinking. That's the destruction of the four olds. This is what cultural Marxism does, whether it's in the French Revolution or in the revolution of the Cultural Revolution in 1968. That is now front and center in this election. So you're going to compare and contrast. Just listen to Judge Barrett over the next couple of days, and you compare and contrast. Do you want Judge Barrett and the world she stands for, or do you want what they stand for out in Portland, Oregon? Is that what you want? So we're going to be playing this throughout the day. Or do you want Keith Olbermann? Is Keith Olbermann a guy you want? Is that what you support? You know, calling President Trump a terrorist, inciting those crazies that could assassinate the president? Is that what you want? Is that type of rhetoric? You know, to me, Keith Olbermann, ESPN, I'd like to know what Disney has paid this guy to go away. Why is the Disney Corporation, you know, Walt Disney, one of the greatest Americans, right? An all-American guy, just unbelievable, of the American way of life, the post-war American way of life. His company is paying Keith Olbermann, right? Some sort of settlement agreement or some sort of compensation to get rid of him. And there's no trigger in their deal for that type of rhetoric. ESPN is to basically let this guy loose on America, right? To have that kind of hateful rhetoric. And they talk about hate speech. What could be more hate speech than that? What could be more hate speech than that? That's just pure hate speech. And it's dangerous. I don't know why the Secret Service is not in Keith Olbermann's apartment or closet or wherever he lives, right? Hanging upside down like a bat, right? I don't know why they're not. They're not shaking down Keith Olbermann right now, checking his meds. He's got to get back on his meds, get back on his meds. By the way, Keith, we're all open to have what your forefathers did for freedom in this country, okay? We're waiting for that. And by the way, if you got a big, long list of veterans and people that have sacrificed this country, hey, we'll play it up and make sure we got it. But right now, not seeing it, brother. Don't. I'm not seeing it. Don't feel it. Raheem, Jason, Jack, I want to go back to this theme of Judge Barrett. The Handmaid's Tale. And by the way, we play that parody video at the beginning just to let you know what the left is doing. We always like to play all sides so you can understand what's going on. Give you signal, not noise. What is the signal about Judge Barrett? What is the signal about getting this done now? What is the signal about her hearings? Not the noise. We know what the noise is going to be, but what's the signal here? I'm going to start with Raheem and then go to Jack.
You know, I don't think the signal is Amy Coney Barrett at all, Steve. I think the signal is, and this, from a production standpoint, the first time I'll ever say this, I think we're off cycle. I think we're off cycle because the news story should be and is, as far as the right is concerned, what happened in Denver, right? It's a political assassination that happened in Denver, and I get the significance of Amy Coney Barrett. But I think what the signal really is to people out there looking at the distinction between these two candidates at this election is, hey, you got one side, everything that they'll do to Amy Coney Barrett, that's the basic level. The real street fight, as the Transition Integrity Project called it, has already started, and it started by murdering people out on the street and then pretending to be a security guard for a local news organization. That's what happened in Denver yesterday, and I just think, Steve, not to avoid your question, that is everything right now.
Why do you say that? You're saying that's an assassination like took place in Portland when they killed the leader of the Christian group up there, shot him like a dog in the streets. You're saying this is another, you consider this a political assassination?
Look, I had this story. There were a handful of us who had the story up, tweeting about it as soon as it happened. Based on local news reports, we put a very good picture together, and then in the immediate aftermath, the police come out and go, oh, no, the guy wasn't Antifa, he was a private security guard for the local news channel. It then comes out, I stick to my story, by the way, I didn't remove my tweets, I stick to my story. It then comes out, oh no, he's not a licensed security guard, and oh yeah, he does have a history with Occupy and Antifa, and oh, guess what, the local news agency shouldn't have been hiring him, he wasn't registered to do that job, and he shot a man cold dead in the street. That's why it's the signal.
Okay, let's take a short commercial break. We'll return. Raheem Gassam, Jack Maxey, Steve Bannon. You're in the War Room.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, let's go back. I want to go back and focus. Let's focus on this on Denver. Jack, what's your thoughts about what happened in Denver? Do you believe it's a political assassination? Raheem, I want you to jump in also. You guys broke the story yesterday. Didn't they kind of back us off by saying, "Hey, this guy's not actually Antifa. He actually is a security guard, licensed or unlicensed"? Are you making the claim that he's actually Antifa?
Well, the signal from the noise on this, Steve, is that it was the media itself that came out to try and provide the cover story for this guy, right? He had been hired by them. Apparently, he'd worked for this News 9 before. He was associated with Antifa and the BLM movement. So it leads me to think, hey, before we even had a news story, we can tell that 9 News in Denver is definitely a biased outfit if they've got this guy on the payroll and riding shotgun with him at the protests.
So Raheem, tell me, is this guy Antifa or is he not? Let's leave the licensing aside for a second. Is he Antifa or not? And does this show you more than just Jack saying, "Hey, they got some guy that's kind of smarmy"? Is this, you actually said, I think you used the word assassination. Do you believe this is assassination? Do you think this is the work of Antifa? And do you think the media is somehow involved in this?
So in the immediate aftermath of this, let's take a step back, all right? So the thing goes down as far as, I think we can get some graphics up on the screen as well, Vish, if we can do this, right? So the immediate aftermath of this, there's no like head-on video of what happened, but there are a series of Getty Images pictures which have been stitched together in order to show what went down. What happens here in this scenario? There's a clash between several people out on the street in Denver from opposing sides. Now, the local news reports called one side, branding themselves patriots, and the other side branding themselves Antifa. So we see that there's an altercation between several people, and that this one man walks towards the altercation, towards another man who's holding a can of like bear spray or whatever it is, right? Then these two start getting into it, but it's a very, very quick interaction. Effectively, the quote patriot slaps the other guy in the face, takes a couple of steps back, and then by this time, the other guy has pulled his gun and shot him dead. Shot him in the face, I believe, shot him dead, right? And he hits the ground and he's done. Police swoop in, arrest the guy. The guy's name is Matthew Doloff, 30 years old. He is now in custody, and it's an active investigation. But they say he's going to be charged for first-degree murder. Here's the thing: the media immediately jumps to the guy's cover and says, oh, he's a private security guard, he's working for the CNN and NBC News affiliate 9 News, and he was just doing his job, protecting the reporter. Except the reporter wasn't involved in that altercation as far as we can see. The guy himself just wanted to intervene in another altercation that was taking place. So that's step one. Number two, in the immediate aftermath, you have everybody, all the weaponized, self-declared weaponized autists of the internet who are putting 2 and 2 together, going through Matthew Doloff's social media, going through his 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 background, his history, groups that he's been involved with. And it soon transpires that this Matthew Doloff was very active in the 2011, 2012 with the Occupy movement. And he's also got these tattoos which happen to fit this kind of weird Antifa, anti-racism thing on his wrist. So they're matching all these photos up, and I've been through them all myself, and everything they're saying does make sense and works so far. The third part of this is this guy, Matthew Doloff, was very well known for going onto right-wing social media pages and being abusive towards them. So, for instance, he would go on to Dave Rubin's Twitter account and be very abusive. This isn't the sign of some non-partisan security guard who just happened to get caught up in a fracas. And then finally, and this is the one I'm still waiting on hard confirmation of, but there are claims, and they have screen grabs with them, so I have no reason to disbelieve them at this point. But there are claims that they found this guy's voter registration, and he is in fact, registered as a Democrat also. But we're waiting on further confirmation of that. In the meantime, the case remains incredibly active in the sense that there's new information that is being dug up by ordinary people every second, it appears, about Matthew Doloff and his background, especially in light of the Denver police attempting to make excuses, cover up, help out their buddies at 9 News. I don't know what the deal is there, but they were wrong. They were proved wrong, and now everybody is. I think everybody's all over this story right now.
No, but it's not just 9 News. It's a CNN affiliate. I mean, he's getting a paycheck essentially from CNN. This is what Keith Olbermann's rhetoric, this is where it leads to. That overheated rhetoric that people are criminals, that people are evil, that people should be locked up. That's why he had these guys. And I don't get this thing that he steps in to try to defend the reporter. I mean, a guy even puts right away it's either mace or some sort of spray. That's not a lethal weapon. Why would a guy pull a revolver and shoot a guy in point blank range and shoot him in the face? This is just what they're trying to show you is they can gun you down. Just like they gunned the guy down, the Christian guy in Portland. They shot him, they gunned him right down. That was a pure assassination. Gunned him right down, shot him like a dog, right? Just like here, this is an assassination. That guy has it's mace or bear spray or it's something, but it's not lethal. Mace is not lethal. Bear spray is not lethal, okay? And for a guy to pull out a gun like that and shoot a guy at point blank range, because they think they can get away with it.
But what's really
because they've got the media to cover for him. They got Keith Olbermann to instigate it, and then Keith Olbermann to cover for him.
What's really important to me, Steve, when you talk about these political assassinations that are occurring out on the street, now they may seem sort of spontaneous, but when you look at movements like the one that we're watching going on right now, this Maoist revolution that they're trying to foment in the street, and it's not just in America, it's around the West. You see this going on in Santiago, Chile. You see it going on in European capitals. Tearing down statues, destroying history, all of this leads to murder. If there's anything that we can remember from the 21st century, this rhetoric, this anger, it will lead to murder, and we're getting a taste of it right now.
You mean the 20th century?
20th century, yes.
20th century.
Please forgive me.
We're in the 21st. So what do you mean by that? What do you mean it leads to murder?
Well, look, we're tearing down these statues. We're violently destroying property. All I'm saying is these kinds of clashes, this kind of emotional discontrol, if you will, always ends up leading to people dying. And we're going to see this in our streets in a greater degree, in my opinion, unless we clamp this thing down.
Yeah.
And one of the things, we started out this thing a little bit of with an anecdote about the fact that Dr. Ko ran the psychiatric hospital, gave all the statues. And people have been commenting in the live feed talking about how, we forgot about the psychiatric hospitals. Well, in 1955, we had 550,000 psychiatric beds in America, with about half the population. Today, we have less than 200,000 psychiatric beds. I think we can look out on the street and look at 600,000 psychiatric patients who in the old days would have been in custody, strapped to a bed, and you get a real idea of what the hell is going on out there.
with the old, by the way, the population is 3x where it was back then. Raheem, let's go back and reset. Start from the beginning. Walk us through. There's been a political assassination out in Denver. Let's walk through the entire story so people know what the facts are.
Yeah, and just I want to pick up something very quickly where Jack left off there. I was reading this book yesterday. You're going to laugh, but it's called Post-Apocalyptic Fantasies in Antebellum America, and it actually goes through some of the founders and the American literature types, how they looked at the future. And there was one part of this 1824 history of the state of New York by John Van Ness Yates and Joseph White Moulton, which really gave me pause for thought. It said that the future, the national degeneracy and criminality by future barbarians will lead America ripe for ruin, and then we'll recommence the dark ages of this continent. And it just struck me, it's just hit me in the solar plexus when I was looking at everything that has been taking place, whether it's Portland or whether it's Denver over the course of this weekend, about some of this stuff. So here's the thing: the worst thing about all of this is you really have to find alternative news sources to get a non-spun story on this. So one of the good news sources on this is a website called The Post Millennial. I'm sure a lot of our audience will be familiar with it by now, but for those of you who aren't, these are the guys who you're just pumping breaking news items out there, and as the story develops, they will add to the story. And I think that is, in a situation like this, one of the most responsible ways you can do this, because you're not on the ground. You can't just be making things up. And we did see people in the left media make things up about this yesterday. There was a whole big backlash immediately after the Denver police came out and said, "Oh no, it wasn't Antifa. It's some guy who was a security guard." And a lot of conservatives even deleted their tweets and said, "Oh, okay, I guess we got it wrong." I said, hold on a minute. I've seen this all before. I've seen this take place. I've seen it after terror attacks in my country. I've seen it after terror attacks in Europe. The police come out and they immediately try to play cover. And they think it is their moral imperative for them to play cover, Steve, because they think it's their job to keep the peace on social media rather than report accurately what's going on. So here's the deal. And by the way, when you do something like this, or the Post Millennial does something like this, they tell the audience the story is being updated to reflect new information as it comes through. So nobody's ever led down the garden path of, hey, this is the final be-all and end-all of this story, and then you can read it and go to bed. Look, this thing effectively was during what was called a Black Lives Matter Antifa soup drive that was taking place in Denver, and I think we've got some of this footage. We can throw it up there while I'm talking as well, and walking us through this. It was captured from multiple angles on live streams, but not really any clear evidence of this so far. What's really interesting is that the Getty photographer snapped, and you're seeing this on your screens now for the video audience, the Getty photographer snapped several images in a row. Now, we're not going to show you the actual shot taking place in this. It wouldn't be appropriate to do so on television, but immediately after the scene,
why would it not be appropriate?
Well, I don't think the actual broadcasters would allow for it, Steve. Which is why Real America's Voice won't be able to show it. But on social media, you can see the whole thing. But immediately you see here this altercation taking place, and on the left of your screens is the patriot, the conservative, the Trump supporter. Let's be clear. And on the right is the so-called protection for the CNN affiliate, local news affiliate, and NBC, by the way, local news affiliate. That agency serves as an affiliate for both CNN and NBC. Now, you see the slap takes place here. There's obviously a war of words going on, and there's a slap that takes place. The Patriot's left hand comes across the face, and then he takes 2 steps back. You see it because you see his position in line with that fence post. So he's taking the steps back at this point. In the immediate second after this, a gun is drawn. He has a red dot on the sight. It hits the guy direct, boom, and he's done. He's down, and that's it. He's, unfortunately, immediately deceased. That is now what's currently being investigated. The police are holding the man on the right as under first-degree murder charges, and the media is currently trying to run interference. In fact, Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, they immediately said, "Oh no, he's Pinkerton. He's Pinkerton security."
Yeah.
And then Pinkerton came out and said, "We don't know who this guy is. What are you talking
Exactly.
about?" So we don't know where that whole rumor started, Steve, but that was clearly a rumor designed to cover for what I will keep saying was an overt political assassination on the streets of America.
Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. We'll be back in a second. War and pandemic. We're going to talk about why CNN is not stepping up here and letting people know what's going on with one of their employees in cold blood in Denver.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome. We're going to talk about a publicly traded company. What is this, Tegna? Did we get that? Let's get the board of directors up here. It's quite interesting. Stuart Epstein, former, he's a partner in Evolution Media. That's another left-wing group that's taking your money, the deplorables money. He's on the board of directors. By the way, every member of the board of directors ought to be sued by this guy's family, right, personally. Stuart Epstein, formerly of NBC. You've got the founding partner of Look Left Media. What is her name? Let's go down here. Melinda Whitmer. She's the former executive VP, Chief Video and Content Officer, Time Warner. She's also founder of Look Left Media, right? You've got nothing but a bunch of lefties. You've got the Annenberg, Susan Ness. Susan Ness is the Distinguished Fellow of Annenberg Public Policy Center, University of Pennsylvania, another left-wing group. It's just, this is fraught with, this is an NBC affiliate in Denver? Guys, this is the NBC affiliate? Is what we're told? They provide a feed to CNN, but the NBC affiliate?
It's an NBC affiliate, although CNN reports them as a CNN affiliate.
Yeah, well, I think they give the feed to CNN also. They've got, but this has got tons of NBC guys associated with it, right?
Yeah,
so we're going to get more. We're going to make them all famous, right? So just if you're going to allow your employees to have political assassination, if you're going to gun down the deplorables in the street, right, like dogs, you're going to shoot a guy like a dog, you're going to have to pay for it. So I imagine the board of directors, and I would strongly recommend that the strike lawyers that are all over this right now go to the heart of it. So this is pretty outrageous. Raheem, give us some more details of what's going on in Denver.
Yeah, I'm going to read you a statement here from the Department of Excise and Licenses from Denver. They're saying that they've searched the records, and there is no record for an active licensed security guard now or ever for an individual named Matthew Doloff. If he was operating as a security guard, he was in violation of the law. Administratively, a security guard operating without a license could be fined and jailed. The company he works for is also legally responsible for making sure that all their security guard employees have a license and could face administrative action against their required security guard employer license if they have security guards working without a license. So effectively what they're saying is that this station, as you say, KUSA, which is owned in turn by Tegna, bunch of lefties on their board, is also liable for if this guy was claiming to be a security guard, acting as a security guard, and shooting a man dead in the street, of course, as a result of this stuff. The Pinkerton story is bizarre as well. I don't believe that any Pinkerton show. It's not bizarre. It's not bizarre. It's a lie. It's a lie to put it in the headlines so that people kind of skip over it. I'll be honest, I kind of skipped over when I saw the Pinkerton. I thought, this is a poorly trained Pinkerton guy. Pinkerton's going to have a massive lawsuit in their hands. That's what they spin that out there. That's a lie they put out there immediately, right away, right, to try to get try to tamp down so it doesn't become a national story or an international story, and the story doesn't have any legs. Well, the other thing is, who knows whether this guy was operating under a fake name, whether he was providing potential business partners and people that were contracting him with fake names. I mean, this guy is clearly, Matthew Doloff clearly had a lot of experience in political circles. He was very heavily into the Occupy movement. He's been very heavily involved in Black Lives Matter. So who knows just what he's been telling people and who he's been claiming to work for.
But, Steve, this has just been a pattern for the media. We saw this with the people who were theoretically going to kidnap Whitmer. It turns out they're all anarchists and nut jobs who oppose Trump, but we were led to believe that they were somehow a hidden cadre for Trump. Same thing with this people. The media immediately tries to identify them with the opposition. This is all goes back to the mental illness. This is the projection of the Democratic Party. They describe issues in others that are exactly the issues that they have themselves.
Amazing. So, Raheem, go ahead and reset. Tell us what happened, and I want to make sure the audience, particularly people are coming in. Give us what happened on this assassination out in Denver.
So you had this, and I want if we can get the images back up as well for the audience. Look, from what we know so far, okay, there was two rallies taking place, or two demonstrations taking place in Denver on Saturday afternoon. So one was the BLM Antifa Soup Drive, and one was a group of conservative demonstrators, counter-demonstrators, what was billed as a patriot rally of conservative Trump supporters. Now, as we've seen for years and years now, these things can often spill over into altercations, sometimes small, sometimes, unfortunately like this, deadly. There was a period of time in the afternoon wherein a group of people were screaming at each other. Not these two in particular that you're seeing on your screens right now, but right to the left of these guys, where a group of people were screaming at each other. In the background of all of this, these two guys somehow manage to get themselves into an altercation. It was a very fast one. It all happened very quickly, and that's why you won't see necessarily straight up video footage of this. Now, it may exist and it may already be out there, but at the last check, this was the last best type of footage that we have on this. And that is comprised of Getty images that are stitched together. That's why it sort of looks the way it looks, and I want to make sure we get it back up there as well. These two men are having words, clearly, and the conservative guy attempts to, or appears to, slap Matthew Doloff on the right across the face, knocks his hat off. In the immediate aftermath of these scenes, what we can't show because we'd probably get kicked off the network providers for showing it, is the moment that this man shot dead. You can see in the last frame here, if you look very carefully, the last frame, Doloff reaches into his waistband. Right there. Reaches into his waistband. And a second later, he's got his gun, he's got it trained at the victim, and he opens fire. There's a single shot, he's down, and in the immediate aftermath of this was what's incredible, Steve, is that some of the images, and we'll get them up maybe in the next segment, of Doloff staring at the camera lens, the same camera lens that's taking these pictures, and you can sort of see in his eyes, he thinks, oh man, I've screwed up here. The police swoop in, he drops the gun, they arrest him, and he's currently being held for first-degree murder. I think we're up against the break here, Steve.
Okay, let's take a short commercial break. We're going to come back. We got Michael Matt from the Remnant, editor-in-chief of the Remnant, next. Also going to go to New Zealand. We've got Captain Bannon is going to tell us about all the mail-in votes all over the country, spread everywhere, and another fiasco is coming. We're going to go also back to the Judge Barrett hearing that started on Capitol Hill. All next on War Room Pandemic.